15 years. You were gone for 15 years.
I know that, but... Are those the results?
The paper was mostly a large table filled with numbers. Lyra squinted, trying to figure out what she was supposed to look at. She hadn't expected something complicated like this. Her father placed one finger on the bottom number. Probability of parentage, 99.124%. It wasn't phrased like Lyra had expected, just a simple yes or no. The whole thing kind of looked like something Twilight would understand better than she would, and the decimal point was oddly precise, but it was still a good number. What that meant was clear enough. It meant that she was who she thought she was. These really were her birth parents. But maybe even more importantly, this confirmed that she was a real human. Lyra tried to read the columns above the final result.
What does all of that mean?
There were only a few instances where it was off. They said it was probably nothing more than a simple mutation.
Mutation?
It's really very common in these tests. It happens often with age. It could even be a mistake in the process itself. Harmless.
Yeah, it was probably that.
Her hand moved up and tugged on her hair unconsciously. It still naturally grew green and white, not brown.
Sooner or later, you'll need to get this off your chest. I'll feel better.
We're sorry if it ever seemed like we didn't believe you.
No, I understand. For a while, I wasn't really sure either.
But now she was. There wasn't a question anymore. This was where she was meant to be. As a human. With these humans. There was a sound of light footsteps on the stairs. Chloe walked out of the entry hall into the kitchen. She rubbed her eyes sleepily and then noticed all of them standing there by the table.
What's going on?
Honey, we have some very good news. Lyra is going to be living with us from now on.
Huh? You mean like always? Why?
She's your big sister, and now she's going to be living with all of us again.
How is she my sister? She looks weird.
No, that's not...
It's okay. Really, I've been thinking about washing this out anyway.
I'm sure you'll get used to having her around. Your father and I missed her very much.
Where did she come from?
Well...
We don't know where she's been, only that she's back now.
I've never met her before. Why haven't I met her before?
It's very hard to... We'll talk to her later. It's hard forcing this on her. We never even mentioned that she had an older sister.
I know. You didn't think I would ever come back. I understand.
Exactly.
Really, it was a miracle that she had. If she hadn't found those books about humans all those years ago in the Canterlot archives, she would probably still be in Equestria now. Not to mention finding them again after getting back to the human world.
We really are glad you came back, Lyra. Even if you can't tell us why.
I know, it's fine. She'll come around eventually, right? I'm usually better with kids, though. I think I was.
Lyra opened her journal and found the torn-off piece of paper that she'd stuffed between the pages. The drawings that had fallen between were old ones. Some studies that she'd done comparing the size of a human to a pony. It had been fairly accurate. She'd estimated a pony's height at slightly less than half a human's, when it was really closer to 2/3. She smiled at the memory of when she had drawn that, back when humans seemed completely strange and mysterious. Then she took out what she was looking for and closed the journal again, slipping it back into her dresser drawer where she hid it. She read it over. Just a numeric code with Audrey's name above it. She took it downstairs to find the telephone. Although she'd never admit it to her family, she felt a rush whenever she used something like this. An incredible human invention that she'd never dreamed was possible, and yet here it was, and she was using it. She pressed each number with her finger. There was that now familiar buzzing sound when she placed it by her ear, and tilted her head to hold it in place against her shoulder. She waited for the voice to come. It all happened in sequence.
Hello?
Audrey?
No, this is her mother. May I ask who's calling?
Oh, sorry. This is Lyra. Is Audrey there?
Lyra? It's good to hear from you. How are things?
It's great. Absolutely perfect.
Hang on just one moment. I'll find Audrey for you.
The other end went quiet, and Lyra leaned her back against the wall as she waited. She could hear faint voices. Then...
Lyra?
Audrey! Hey, I just wanted to tell you something.
How have things been?
My parents had me take some kind of test to prove I was really their daughter.
Oh, right. Your dad mentioned that.
The results came back. I was right. I really am Lyra Michaelakos. I love the sound of that name. It's unmistakably a human name and carried down from my Greek ancestors, the ones who had invented the lyre.
That's fantastic news!
Yeah.
I still can't believe how we found them. That was just crazy luck or something.
Speaking of which, have you talked to Randall lately?
He was your friend, really. Not mine. I've got no clue what he's up to these days.
You know, I've been thinking I want to find another band out here. Get back to playing the guitar. I really miss that.
Yeah, but Lyra, you've been okay, right? No more... have you told your family?
About Equestria? I can tell that's what she means. No, I told you. I was just kidding, that's all. I shouldn't have said anything. We're just going to work through it. Not knowing what happened, I still can't remember.
That's what worries me. Memory loss usually isn't a good sign.
It's fine. Everything's fine. I really don't want to talk about it.
Well, how's everything else over there?
Great! I found a cool bookstore today.
She talked with Audrey for a little while longer. Back at the airport, it had felt like she was leaving everything behind again, but not quite. Thanks to human technology, she could still talk to her friends in Des Moines. It wasn't like leaving Equestria and knowing that her contact with her friends there was all lost. In an odd way, Lyra felt like she was back in Ponyville, staying up late to research the history of humans. The book she had gotten about American history was just one of countless others available to her in this world. Once she was done with this one, she could go back and find tons more information. That feeling of uncovering ancient secrets wasn't quite the same. There had been no hunt through the archives. The book was fairly fresh with clean white pages. Not to mention she was using her very own hands to turn the page. But it was still exciting. Her hands practically shook with anticipation as she began reading.
This country of America is a little under 2.5 centuries old. Compared to how long Equestria had stood, that's nothing. Princess Luna's banishment by itself had lasted over 4 times as long as that, and to think that my first breathtaking glimpse of Des Moines had led me to think that the century must have stood for millennia. The book is starting off with the basics. There's actually no princess in this country, or king or queen. They have something called a president. Who that is now, I have no idea. They have 4-year terms, and the book isn't recent, so whoever's in charge in 2014 would have changed by now. At 18 years old, humans can usually vote for a new president, among other things. Oh, that reminds me. My own birthday's coming up soon. Summer's just about over. It'll be fall before too long. I'll be 17 years old in probably a few weeks. I'm not sure the exact date, since my equestrian family didn't actually know the right date, but my birthday has always been in the fall, so it might be close. I'm not old enough to participate in my human country's government yet, and I'm not old enough to drink, or even just live by myself, though I'm not in a hurry for that.
She smiled to herself.
No wonder Bonbon always scolded me for being childish. I haven't really thought about Bonbon much lately. That's for the better, though. We've gone our separate ways. Bonbon will live the rest of her days as an ordinary pony making a comfortable living in Ponyville, and I've impossibly gotten the chance to live out an ordinary human life in this place called America.
She turned back to the book in front of her to find out more about what that meant. Now she was looking at the early history of the country.
There are a few mentions of countries I'm familiar with. England, Portugal, and yes, even France. America had split off from England, so that would explain why their language is called English. It doesn't explain how it's the same as equestrian dialect I've always spoken in. I wonder if I'll ever find those answers. But In order to become a country, those early Americans had no. So humans do fight each other, and they don't even need Discord to start it. Let me look ahead, and yes, there's even more. It's like the humans define their history about what wars have taken place.
Lyra had to stop reading.
After the gala, when Princess Celestia told me about humans, she said that war was an unavoidable part of human nature. Even before Discord, they'd fought amongst themselves for whatever reasons they could think of. I spent 2 sleepless nights wondering if that's what my own species did. I came here to reassure myself that humans are better than that. But here in this world, they never completely ended their species. And the book seems to know that wars are terrible, and that's clear from the way they describe them. Flipping ahead, it looks like some of the more recent wars resulted in protests. Humans know that it's not right. They have to. There's enough war in Americans' history that they classified periods of time by them. And yet, I don't understand how they could even start in the first place. What would drive a human to think that's any way to solve a conflict? I've been in such nice neighborhoods, made friends with all sorts of different humans. It's hard to accept that they're anything like Princess Celestia had made them out to be.
Her head hurt. She'd deal with this later. She set the history book aside and picked up another one.
This should be less stressful, I'm sure. This one's just a novel, The Last Unicorn. The unicorn in question is pure white and blank-flanked. He or she looked a lot like those horses I saw back in Iowa. I wonder if this unicorn can even talk. Already I'm having my doubts about this one, but I need to know what humans think about unicorns. Maybe they're just as misinformed as ponies are of them.
That did seem to be the case, as she discovered.
This unicorn is so graceful and beautiful and stupid that she's practically devoid of personality, and she lives out in the woods instead of in a civilized town. But that line from the beginning about the unicorn and how she's no longer the careless color of sea foam makes me shudder. It's only a coincidence. Plenty of unicorns were that color. There's me, and then there was others. I just can't think of their names right now.
Lyra hadn't expected to be so frustrated by this book. What did she really care about unicorns anyway? It had just been a simple curiosity. More about what her little sister was into than her own personal interest. She yawned and set the book on the nightstand with the other, as her eyes fell closed.
Lyra, can you get that?
Hello?
Lyra? Oh, thank goodness. I've been trying to get in touch with you for ages.
Who is this?
Come now, Lyra. You haven't been gone that long. Don't tell me you've forgotten your old roommate already.
Oh my gosh, Bon? Is that really?
Oh, you do remember. I'm flattered.
I can't believe it's really you! How have you been?
Still the same as ever, though the house is noticeably quieter. And yourself? You just up and disappeared without a single word. I'd love to know what was so important.
It's fantastic here, Bon. I wish you could see this place. Philadelphia is a huge city, and there's so many more like it. There's humans everywhere.
Sounds like you're enjoying yourself.
You bet! You used to say we didn't even exist. Wait, Bon, how did you know how to...
Lyra sat up in bed, stared at her dark bedroom, and instantly groaned and fell back down. She ran her fingers through her hair.
What is wrong with me? Thinking that Bon could just get a phone and call just to see how I'm doing.
She took a deep breath. It would pass. Sooner or later, this would be all over. After all, they'd proven it.
I am a human, even if it doesn't always feel like it.
Lyra took the book out to the back porch one afternoon and settled down in one of the wooden chairs, bracing herself for more painful misinformation.
To be fair, this Peter S. Spiegel probably never expected anyone who'd actually been a unicorn to read his book. Just like my dad said about his own book. Magic's made up, so writers can do whatever they want with it. It's just ridiculous, though. Not only does this unicorn not have a cutie mark, as it was never mentioned in the story, but I can see it's not on the cover. She doesn't even have a name. Plus, she lives out in the woods and not in a proper house like a civilized pony.
Lyra glanced up at the trees all around her.
Well, I live in the woods now. In Ponyville, they all live away from the forest. It's almost ironic. It doesn't make sense how this unicorn could live by herself and not realize that she's the last of her kind. Or how there could be humans in the same world as unicorns and nobody thought it was strange. And even more strangely, the unicorn can't use magic, but her human companion can. I like him better. He's kinda clumsy, but he seems to get things done. That's more than can be said about this unicorn.
Her fingers flipped through the pages slowly, and she thought about setting the book aside again and heading inside. But then, it was in the middle of the nameless unicorn being chased by the evil bull or whatever it was. Something happened. That human magician she was traveling with turned her into a human. Lyra smiled.
Finally! This unicorn's about to get some sense knocked into her. I remember the exact moment when the same thing happened to me. The initial confusion and how it was quickly replaced with relief and sheer joy once I moved my fingers for the first time and stood up on my own 2 legs. But something's wrong. This unicorn's acting like becoming a human is the most terrible thing! What's her problem? Humans can do so much more. They look so much better. And it's not even like this unicorn had ever even used magic. She was shocked to be in a mortal body now or something. And ever since I'd come here and moved in with my parents, I've actually been feeling younger.
Lyra had to fight not to throw the book out into the yard. But then she glanced up at the sound of the back door sliding open, and noticed Chloe had come outside.
What book is that?
It's called Last Unicorn.
You like unicorns too?
Well, kind of. I just wanted to see what this book was about, that's all.
Chloe nodded and looked away. Lyra looked at the cover illustration again.
Maybe I'm reacting too hard to everything this book says. After all, I've never really been a unicorn. I've technically always been a human. Chloe, you seem to know a lot about unicorns. Have you ever heard of Equestria?
It felt strange to actually say that word out loud. Lyra practically had to force it out. And yet now that she'd said it, she was feeling better. Maybe Monica had been right. She did just need to get it off her chest.
No. What's that? Is that what your book is about?
No. This book doesn't know anything about real unicorns.
Well, what do you know about them?
Equestria is where all the unicorns live. But there's also Pegasi and Earth ponies. Only the unicorns can use magic, but all of the ponies are still important.
Where did you learn about that?
Well, it's just a story I've heard.
Chloe took a seat in the other chair next to Lyra's, and leaned in closer.
Tell me.
Where do I start?
She told her all about Canterlot, the capital city where the princess lived, and about Cloudsdale, where the Pegasi made all of Equestria's weather, and about the ponies who lived in Ponyville, Twilight Sparkle, the expert on magic, Fluttershy with all of her animals she took care of, Pinkie Pie, who worked at Sugarcube Corner and drove her co-worker Bon Bon up the wall every single day, and, of course, about a unicorn musician named Heartstrings.